Summer Sports Talk Worldwide with some news from the world of boxing. So y'all know what time it is. You ain't in a rush to get concussed. Now we're gonna talk middleweight slash super middleweight slash sometime light heavyweight slash I'm spoiled. Right? It's Canelo Alvarez. Right? Canelo Alvarez. Ask yourself a question. For those who can't really, have any kind of I don't want to go there. Anyway, for those, just for those. Do you like spoiled people, spoiled kids? Your neighbor's spoiled kids. Don't if their neighbor got spoiled kids, you don't like them, do you? They get on your damn nerves, don't you? They get everything they want and start screaming if they don't, right? They spoiled because they got everything they want. So if you say no to them, we're gonna freak out on you. Bottom line, and that's Canelo Alvarez when it comes to boxing. Now Canelo Alvarez is supposed to fight on the Mexican holiday, right? But that's only a few days away now. Still doesn't have an opponent. Still has 1,000 options. He has a couple of extremely great options that he's just not going to fight, right? And so you got to mention it from time to time. For me, he should be blackballed, right? He should be blackballed. But most of the people, if it's the other boxers, if it's promoters, if it's media, they suck up to him. When they talk about him, well, he could fight this guy, this guy, this guy, but Canelo's the face of boxing, and he's a great champion, and all those things that you have to say because he might not want to fight you again, and it is a payday, which in boxing is just ridiculous. Why is it a payday? It should be like every other sport: the best fight the best, and then we got a final, and then he wins, and it doesn't matter who's more famous and who we like, whose uniforms are the coolest. None of that. There's a champion, and there's the rest are not. Right? That's how that works. But not in boxing. You can just anoint someone and that's it. Now, people would think that I would hate on Canelo. Let me just make sure this is clear before we even just go get into other stuff. Hating on Canelo? I wouldn't love to not hate on Canelo. Let me tell you something. Canelo, this is cinnamon we talking about here. We talking about an extremely great defensive fighter, a counter puncher extraordinaire, a dude who goes viciously to the body, has upper body movement, can avoid punches. You see that first fight against Golovkin, how he made Golovkin miss all those times, right? Strong and has a granite chin. Awesome fighter, okay? Awesome fighter. Could be more confident from his actions, but when he gets in the ring, he's going to handle his business. This is a bad boy we're talking about when we're talking about Canelo. Let's make sure that's clear because everything else I'm about to say ain't so clear, right? These are reasons. And most of the time, most things I'm about to list right here, just jotted down a list. Matter of fact, yesterday, by the way, just jotted down a little list of things that irked me with him. And most of them probably did a video about him already, right? Just remember. So this is when you understand why someone is complaining, right? Because it's just not fair. You remember we have in boxing about 1,000 boxing divisions, right? And around Canelo's weight, you have one called the junior middleweight. That's 154. Then you have one called the middleweight, which is 160. We didn't even have that 30 years ago. But now we have that. Do you know Canelo was able to make another weight because he couldn't make 154, so he made it 155, and he was able to fight 3 or 4 times there. And what do? We embraced it, and we even called it Canelo weight. It irks me as a consumer. It irks me a little bit. Why? Find 154 or 160. Who the hell are you to make a date? Another weight when we got 1,000 of them. I didn't like that, right? I don't know. Did you? Right? Another thing. He was doped twice with clenbuterol. Not once, twice. He was doped. Okay? Doped. Most of the time, right? People that don't give a damn, that want to even play a field, they're not for the doped fighter. But we've seen it with Pacquiao against Mayweather. They went for the dope fighter. We saw it with Povetkin and Deontay Wilder. When Povetkin was dope, they wanted Deontay Wilder to fight him anyway. He would have, but they didn't let him. But the people were like, well, he just trace amounts and all of this stuff. That irks me when someone's dope, right? What else irked me? Third point is that the WBC raised the clenbuterol levels because Canelo said he was getting it from a Mexican meat. So instead of saying, hey, no, we'll just stop eating Mexican meat, you're rich, and the other boxers stop eating the meat. No, we're going to raise the level so it's okay for you guys to have it in your system. All right? So that's what we do. So that's one thing. So that's 3 things so far, right? The 4th thing that bothers me is the franchise belt. What do? Canelo fights who he wants. But then again, you have a mandatory that's very hard. Name is Jamal, by the way. Jamal Charlo, right? So he's hard. Nobody wants to be the undefeated guy. So what does the WBC do? They make a new belt, right? A new belt. And they call it the franchise belt. With this belt, he's not supposed to, or he's allowed to not fight him, right? So he gets away with that, right? Like a new belt, franchise belt, right? Just make up something, and he doesn't have to fight his mandatory. And the belt is like they say, hey, you don't have to fight your mandatories. You can do what you want to. You're special, basically. Long story. I'm cutting it short, condensing everything, right? Another point. He fights Erislandy Lara after being forced to. He didn't beat Erislandy Lara. Why do we readdress that fight, please? That irks me. Just fights like that. Just you as a consumer, you see fights, you see they're close, you want a rematch. Remember how bad you wanted to see Kovalev fight at Andre Ward again? Didn't you? Right? So you would want a rematch here. Laura, he did not beat Laura. He lost to Laura, actually, but he got the fight. Didn't have to readdress it. Right? That's about 5 points. One is real huge to me. Floyd Money Mayweather. Mayweather whitewashed him, schooled him, made him look pedestrian, didn't he? Right? Somebody gave Mayweather that fight, right? That person's supposed to be either in jail or in a justification booth watching that fight with someone else so they can tell them what rounds were you giving to this man, right? Didn't have to do it. That irked me. It's about 6 points, isn't it? Let me tell you another one. Gets me. Point number 7, I think it is. A boxer named Austin Trout was undefeated. They fought in San Antonio, Texas, right? Fought in San Antonio, Texas. Your boy Canelo beat him, but they had something that you call open scoring, which is actually something that's unfair. It's called open scoring. So what you do after 4 rounds is you tell the fighter how he was doing in the 4 rounds. Now Austin Trout in the first 4 rounds, I would give him at least 3 from the first 4. But if you want to be pro Canelo, you give him 2 of the first 4. But he was told after round 4 that he didn't win any. Okay? He didn't win none at all, right? So this is a counterpuncher who has to change his game plan to fight Canelo, right? So he eventually loses the fight, and it was a close fight, and everyone knows it, and not readdressed. It's about 7 points. Now, another one. The Canelo, when he was at that 155, he was outweighing and rehydrating and bigger than most of his opponents at that time. He didn't start being smaller than opponents until he fought somebody light heavyweight. That's about 8 points. Doesn't that irk you? That's too many advantages, isn't it? Right? Now, another one, the worst one that everybody knows that comes to Doma's channel, right? The 3 people that come in here, all of them know this. That he was been allowed not to fight Demetrius Andrade for about 6 or 7 years, right? Andrade was champion at 154 pounds and is a champion at 160. Been calling him out forever. I don't have to detail that anymore because I talk about it all the time, right? Not no one. Everybody has allowed him to not fight Andrade. The WBO, where Andrade was the champion, once they stripped Andrade, then they gave it to Liam Smith. What happens? Canelo fights Liam Smith. The Zone they're there right now, both of them, and they won't even mention Andrade to him. His team and the media, no one mentions that. This irks me, right? Another thing that irks me about point 9 or 10 is they give them. Everyone knows this information that I'm telling you guys. A guy on the internet that it was hard to find. That guy is able to tell you something. They still call this guy with all this information the face of boxing. That doesn't irk you yet? Point 10. Another thing. Let's get to point 11 or 12. He's a 4 division champ. They say it loudly. 4 division champ. That 3rd division, the super middleweight division, he fought a guy called Rory Fielding, who is a regular champion. And regular means I'm probably damn near as good as he is. That's what regular means. That regular means you're not even the best in that division. You're not even in probably sometimes the top 10. Top 10. Tell you why. I'll give you an example. The regular heavyweight champion, his name is Manuel Char. Do you have him in your top 10? No, you don't. Probably not even your top 20. But he's the regular champion, so that means nothing. So when I'm going in on Canelo, these are the things that I've talked about. I love the guy at first, but I don't like anybody spoiled. Not your kids, not my kids, or anybody else's kids that are spoiled. We don't like spoiled people, and Canelo is spoiled. But here's the problem. You made him that way. Doma Sports Talk Worldwide. And I'm up out of here, y'all.